I am upset because I feel alone. And I'm kicking myself because I know that I have tools that I could be using to make myself feel less alone. And I have decision-making skills that I've learned that could help me make a decision. But what I really want is a confidant. Like, I want someone to be me for myself. And no one is gonna do that because no one else is me. No one else does what I do. I don't know anyone else who does what I do. So I have to be me for myself, and I don't like it. Just have to pick myself up by my bootstraps and do it by myself anyway. I don't trust Chris to advise me on these kinds of things because I'm remembering how I felt on occasions when I felt like I really needed him to be a confidant and to be an advisor. I felt like he didn't understand and like he wasn't connecting with my values or the things that I care about or the reasons that I was struggling. I don't trust Mose to be my confidant or advisor because they seem feeble to me. They don't seem to have a lot of conviction, which is something that I'm trying to cultivate. Part of me wants to ask one of my sisters, but I expect all of them to just, well, I expect Danielle to be out of her depth and to not know how to help me in any way because she herself is in such a situation that she probably doesn't feel great about. I expect Jessica to be really dismissive and cold. I expect Kira to, again, not understand my values and not connect with the reasons that I'm struggling, or to patronize me. I expect my mom not to be that present for me. I'm like, maybe Grace, maybe, but it's almost like talking to a wall because no one knows what they're doing. I want to talk to someone who feels like they know what they're doing. And I think that when people confide in me and ask me for advice, that I at least feel like I know what I'm doing. Because I have the tools, I have the skills, I've paid for the lessons. So the next best thing I have after that is to ask, like, my spirit guides, which I don't feel that connected to, and feel intangible. But they're kind of the only option I have outside of myself and outside of this. I want someone to take me in and adopt me and guide me and fix me. And make my decisions for me, but make it feel like they're my decisions. And make it obvious to me what the right decisions are, which I know better than to believe there is a right decision for anything. There's harmonic decisions, there are aligned decisions, there are decisions that fall within a spectrum of integrity. So, what is the harmonic thing for me to do? What is the most aligned for me? What do I value? I value honesty, being honest with myself about the fact that I'm not that into the position that I'm in right now. I value integrity, being that I do the things I say I'm gonna do, which is, I said I was gonna invest in this position and make something out of it despite not being that into it. I value connection, which I finally feel like I'm starting to connect with at least one of my coworkers, and the other one I'm not that interested in being connected to. And I value personal growth, which means stepping into my growth zone and allowing myself to be uncomfortable. Thinking about applying at bars feels like barf club, which means that I probably should do it. But then beyond that, I have to weigh my integrity up against my honesty. I have to balance the scales between what I said I would do, what I told myself I would do, and what feels right. There's also the fact of being influenced by a million things, like the fact that I feel compelled to prove to myself that I can be financially independent and I can pay my own bills and I can live by myself. There's the fact of the pandemic and the way that that influences the workforce and the workspace and the things that I am able and willing to do, being that Chris is a loud enough voice in my head that when he says out loud physically that he doesn't want me to get boosted, I believe him and I believe his reasoning. So I'm not inclined to do that. And then there's my attachment to this idea of being a responsible person, meaning that I have talked about a lot. I've talked about making something out of this position and taking charge and taking ownership of the beverage bar at Richfield and utilizing that raw material of this like shabby, shitty situation and turning it into something worthwhile for myself and for the other people involved. And then there's the fact of my desire for a community, in addition to my desire to leave everything and go and explore and be and live in new places. I feel like I have a but for every point I make. So I've got myself trapped in analysis paralysis. So I feel like I need to ask my body and check in somatically with what feels the most aligned. And I have massive resistance to just doing that because it's more comfortable for me to be confused and in doubt because it's more familiar than I am being certain and convicted and dedicated to a course of action. I know I need to move out, and I recognize that the timing of trying to move out at the term of the lease probably won't go that well considering all of the traveling that I have planned. So I feel inclined to make like a pros and cons list and weigh out my options that way. I think it's becoming apparent to me that I am probably going to switch to working bars instead of the co-op. Beyond that, it's just a question of when. I feel inclined to consider the math involved in the whole income situation because bars would be a lot more lucrative, but it would also cost me my integrity. I said that I was going to do something with this position. I've been talking about doing something with this position for a long time. And it feels unfair, even to myself, not to even try. Like, I've been there for 3 months, if that, 2.5 months, which is nothing as an adult, a 25-year-old. Like, I expect myself to have more of my shit figured out by now. I want to start meeting the people that are going to help me raise my kids, or at least building those relationships, and I don't feel like I have any of those relationships yet. I'm not with anyone that I really feel compelled to have kids with. I thought about it with Chris, but seeing the way that he is with the cats, I don't think it's him. I want to be someone who is living a life that I want for my kids. So I have to figure out what kind of life I want for my kids. And 25 is young. Like, I expect myself to have more of my shit figured out by now, but like, it's 75 more years left to figure shit out and to do new things. Like, I look forward to my 60s, and that still is another 35 years. Like, why do I feel so pathetic and discouraged by not already having shit figured out? Not to mention, I know that Saturn return is a thing around 27, around 30. And that regardless of whatever I get figured out by this point, everything, like, shit hits the fan when you turn 27, 28. So why bother getting anything set up at this point when I know it's all going to shift and crumble in like 3 to 5 years anyway? I think I want to really capitalize on the fact of having insurance and benefits now, on the chance that I end up in a position that's really lucrative but doesn't have benefits. Because that's something that I expect to change. I don't expect benefits when I work at a bar or restaurant or whatever. So I need to make a dentist appointment. And I need to make sure that my prescriptions are as full as possible so that I have time in between where I have access to the medications that allow me to have cats. And to breathe. I'm also just really scared of change. Which is ridiculous because I've committed myself to so many changes already. I'm also scared of putting myself in a position where I might lose some of the connections that I have. I'm scared of shaking everything up. Like I want a safe place to land, which means that I want safe people to come back to. Oh, fuck, my face is leaking so much. Distracted, but I'm curious what this button does. Probably snaps pictures. So now there's pictures of me crying in the middle of this video. Or the end. It's been almost 20 minutes. Why not now? Why not change shit up now? Why not change a million times? I am approaching the summer of my life. Which means ideally I'm growing a lot. But the idea is that you're supposed to harvest at the end of that growth. So what am I harvesting? Myself. I don't know if it's whether, or if it's because I'm in a state where I want to just like trash everything and start over again, or if I really have actually been thinking about things enough where I feel like I actually want to move across the country by myself and like try to plant roots there and like start building something that my kids will get to benefit from. It might be easier to save up more faster if I work somewhere where I make more money. But applying somewhere where I might make more money means leaving the job that I'm at, which means breaking my word to everyone that I ever mentioned that I wanted to make something out of the beverage bar too. God, my nose hurts. And I don't owe them jack shit. Would I want my kid to stay stuck just because they said they were going to do something that they don't actually want to do? I've been at Lake Winds for over a year. Maybe even coming up on a year and a half. And Chris is keeping the lease. So I could keep working at Lake Winds and then change everything up after all of the traveling that I've done, after I've hit the 2-year mark that I said I wanted to hit. I could just hold out and wait, and that means working with Sam 3 days a week. I really don't want to work with Sam 3 days a week anymore. And I want to work in a faster paced environment. And if I change jobs, that gives me time to save up for the traveling that I want to do this year. And I haven't even looked. I know nothing about what is actually out there yet. I just know that I am a worthwhile employee and a worthwhile partner, and that I will end up with the things that I ultimately want because I have always wanted them. And I know that all of the actions that I take, no matter what they are, will ultimately end up getting me there, because there are a million different routes to the same destination. So no matter what, I know that I'm going to end up in my 60s, probably still carrying around the same sense of despair. But at the very least, with a safe place to land and people to land with. By then, I know that that will be my prime. And that figuring shit out is messy and stupid. It takes forever. I'm gonna look. I'm looking at apartments and at restaurants. maybe bars. I'm just gonna look and see what's out there. And when something calls to me, which no doubt something will, in both cases, I'll keep investigating. And I and the places that I am meant to be and the people that I am meant to be with will find each other. Because that's how my life works. And that is a decision that I get to make, to believe that. I get to decide to believe that manifesting works for me and that I will break and unlearn the scarcity mindset eventually. I have no idea how, but I am committed to being the cycle breaker of that particular thing. No more scarcity. God provides. I am God. God provides. I will find a way. I will figure it out. I feel for myself and I feel myself. Which feels like kind of a big deal because I didn't feel like myself until I was 23. So I've only had 3 years actually to try to figure shit out for myself. So of course I don't know what I'm doing. I've only been myself for 3 years. So, go get him, Tiger. Oh God. I know it's not gonna happen until I do it. But I like the idea that I have 35 more years to figure it out. So I can procrastinate away. And maybe that's the life I want for my kids, because when you do things you don't like doing so that you can pay to keep your life, which is to say, so you can pay to keep doing things you don't like doing, you spend your whole life miserable, and that's stupid. Thanks, Alan Watts. So I'm gonna do some things that I like doing and call it good for today.